My next guest, not only is she a UFC vet, but she's actually a U.S. Air Force vet. Please welcome onto the show, and I'm so excited to introduce her, Miss Leah Letson. How you doing, Leah?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on. I know we had planned this interview a couple weeks back. Obviously, craziness in the world that we live in right now, but we got you on. Very excited. How's everything going on your end?
Um, Everything's going great on my end. I just started my own business. I'm getting back into training, hopefully fighting by the end of this year. And I just got a commendation medal in the Air Force today, so that was exciting.
Hey, congratulations on that. I did see that on social media. Congratulations. And thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, no, for sure, for sure. So, Leah, so you're a mixed martial artist. You're 5-1, correct?
Yep, that
You're
is correct.
currently signed with the UFC, correct?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And some of the audience that may know you may actually know you from the Ultimate Fighter season 28. That was your first start into the UFC, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so it was weird because technically I was signed to the UFC while I was on the show. Like before I was even on the show, I was signed to the UFC. They originally had signed me
Okay.
to fight Yana Kunitskaya,
Okay.
and then she ended up getting pulled to fight Cyborg. So I that fight fell through. The UFC told me to stay ready, stay ready. They couldn't find another opponent, and then they asked me, "Hey, would you like to do the Ultimate Fighter show? Like, we need more people, more talent on the show." So, um, and it's going to be at the 145 division. So I was like, "Sure, let's do it. It'll give me a good way to get my name out there, get people to get to know me, get some good
Yeah.
exposure, good experience." And so that's how I actually ended up on the Ultimate Fighter show. It's not the traditional way of going and trying out for the tough series. So
Awesome. Now, was it a little bit? Was it a risk to doing that, Leah?
not really, because the UFC guaranteed that I wouldn't lose my contract. The only thing I stood to do is gain a six-figure
Okay.
contract. So it would
Okay.
have just given me a better contract had I won. And they promised that even if I lost right away, I wasn't going to lose my UFC contract. So it's kind of like a win-win situation for me.
No, absolutely. Now, how would you describe your experience there on the Ultimate Fighter show? Because it's a very unique environment. People deal with cameras 24/7, no cell phones. I've had multiple Ultimate Fighter alums come on the show and tell me there's no cell phones, no TV, zero connection to the outside world. So that seems like it's a lot to process. How was that for you?
Um, I think I had an advantage because I'm
Okay.
in the military, so it was similar to boot camp, but without
Okay.
the people screaming at you all the time. You're just
Okay.
on camera all the time. So it's like similar that you're cut off from society, but it was like a more fun version of boot camp. Because you have to, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I looked at it as like you have to behave yourself at all times because there's always cameras on you, and I refused to act a fool on camera. I know some people like to do that on those reality shows, but
Yeah.
that's just not my style. I mean, I was just myself, so I was just pretty calm and chill, and I worked really hard on that show. I remember I was doing workouts and training in between our official training schedule. So I was constantly training and working out and doing extra stuff at the house, and it was a good experience, but it's something I probably wouldn't want to put myself through again just because it's super awkward living with people that you're gonna fight. It was the
Yeah.
most awkward experience. I can't even tell you. Like, there's
Okay.
no words for it. It's so awkward.
Okay, so you were in the military before this, correct? You're
Yes.
already in the Air Force. So that was an advantage for you going through the house.
Mhm.
Besides, like the whole, would you say the be living with people you're gonna fight was the hardest thing for you in the house, or was there something else?
Um, I'd say the hardest part for me was it's tough. It's
Okay.
either living with the people I'm going to fight, because normally I don't like to even acknowledge that my opponents exist until after the fight. Like, even at
Okay.
weigh-ins and stuff, I like barely look at them. I don't like to acknowledge them. I don't like to have anything to do with them,
Okay.
and until after the fight. So that was like something I really had to get over. And then the other thing I had to get over was um just working with coaches that don't know you really at all. Like,
Okay.
it's hard to, especially for that first fight. Like, we're fighting almost like right away when we start filming the show. So having corners that you're not used to their voices, you know, you're not used to how they call instruction and stuff. So adapting to the brand new coaching staff, that was probably the hardest part for me.
Wow, so that's a very interesting point. So you see, I've never had anyone tell me this. So
Yeah.
I mean, you're used to hearing certain voices. You've been with your team for a good amount of time. You know them. They know what your habits are. I guess that's fair to
Yep.
say. And to
Yeah.
be coached by somebody brand new,
Yeah.
again, you're fighting right away. That does seem like it can be very, very tough. So that's definitely an interesting point that you brought up on there. Now, how long was the recording for the show? Was it around 6 weeks for you guys?
Yeah, it was 6 weeks.
Awesome. And whose team were you on again? You were, because I remember, so you were in the heavyweights, the heavy hitters one.
Yep, the heavy hitters. So it was I was on Team Whitaker.
There we
So
go. And how
it
was
was
that
Whitaker
experience?
versus Gastelum. So yeah.
How was that experience being around two guys that are very mainstream in the UFC right now? Anyone that says Robert Whitaker or Kevin Gastelum know exactly who they are. How was that experience like for you?
I mean, at first it was like, whoa, this is really cool. But then after like a day or two, they're just human beings, just like everyone else. And um, Kelvin Gastelum was actually really, really cool. He was very humble, down to earth, and like he would come over to the house with his coaching staff and hang out with us sometimes. And um, Whitaker did once, I think. Um, but for the most part, it was Kelvin's team that came over and hung out with us a lot. And so they just became like regular people too. So at first you're kind of like starstruck, and then after like a day or two, you're like, okay, this is who they are now.
Yeah.
So
So what
yeah.
would you say was the biggest lesson you learned from doing the show?
Um Honestly, I learned a lot about myself. I'd say like
Okay.
that if I can do as well as I did without much coaching, like I was basically coaching myself throughout the show. Not that like the coaching staff didn't coach us, but I was doing extra training and stuff because on the show, especially, I didn't feel like we were getting adequate training. Like we weren't doing any live drilling, we weren't sparring, we weren't even allowed to spar.
Okay.
Um, we were doing some jujitsu technique and then shadow boxing. That was like our training. And for me, I'm used to like a lot more intense training,
Yeah.
um, especially back then I was. So for me, I learned a lot about how disciplined I was, even when like I could have just done the two minimum training sessions a day, but I was so disciplined that I got the camera crew to come out with me every morning so I could run sprints up and down the sidewalk. And like I was doing extra strength training at the house, and I'd have guys hold pads for me at the house. So like it just taught me like how bad I really truly want this and what I'm willing to do to make my dream come true. So
Definitely. Now, was there a person, because you're around, multiple different people, was there a person that you bonded with that maybe you still consider like a friend coming out of the show, or was it just strictly business? Which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's
yeah.
all you and everything.
Honestly, I would talk to and hang out with any of them again. Like
Yeah.
they were all pretty cool. I still talk to and hang out with Marcia Allen a lot.
Okay.
Like actually, I'm probably gonna go over to her house next weekend. So
Nice.
yeah, she
Nice.
lives in Chicago, so it's not that bad.
Hey, not too bad. So now, question for you. So before the Ultimate Fighter, before you got into this MMA world, you were in the military, correct? You were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Now, what? So when you were in the military, were you all? Did you already have some MMA background, or was it something that you got into while you were in the military?
Actually, I got into MMA shortly before I went to boot camp. So
Okay.
I enlisted in the Air Force, well, the Air National Guard in March. And then the following fall, I took cardio kickboxing at my college to get in shape for basic training. And it just so happened that the two guys that taught the cardio kickboxing class own their own MMA gym.
Okay.
And they saw that I had talent, and they're like, hey, why don't you come try jujitsu and stuff? And I fell in love with jujitsu. I loved kickboxing. So I was training with them for a couple months, getting in shape for boot camp. And then when I got back from all of that, that's when I started training with the fight team. And that's how I really got into MMA. And like a month and a half later, after training with the fight team, I had my first MMA fight on like less than 24-hour notice,
Oh
and
snap!
I won. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is I'm gonna be in the UFC one day. And I literally said that, and I had no idea what that meant at the time. I barely even knew what MMA was. I had no like wrestling, no like any. I barely had kickboxing background. It was just like cardio kickboxing and like some basic jujitsu, and that was about it. And I won my fight, and I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Oh snap! So less than 24 hours. So if that was me, I probably would have been like, I think I'm good, man. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I'm good behind the camera. You know. So that's interesting. So was there a lot? Was there much thought to that?
um, Not really, because
I know.
my coach
Oh yeah,
called
you
me
said
up.
24 hours, right?
Yeah, my coach called me up and he's like, "So, do you want to fight tomorrow?" And I was like, "What?" And then he's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Just say yes." And I was like, and he's like, "Just say yes." And I was like, "Okay."
Like,
And
he knew
so,
you would win though. Oh, without a
yeah,
doubt, then for sure he knew you were gonna
yeah,
win. Oh,
yeah.
did you finish the fight?
Yep, first round TKO. So,
Oh man, sorry for that one. Sorry for that
yeah.
person. That was so that's interesting. So within a month and a half, that's crazy. There's people that take a solid year before even like working it up. Now, was it an amateur fight? Was it a pro fight? Was it
Uh,
legit pro?
it was an amateur fight.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I was
It
gonna
was for
say,
King of the Cage, and it was like on the um Indian reservation, so it wasn't like athletic commission. It wasn't sanctioned or anything, so like that's
okay,
why I was able to take it on 24-hour notice, because normally you have to like have all your licensing and physicals and all that stuff like the week before the fight, so I didn't have
yeah.
to worry about all that because it was on one of the Indian reservations.
I was gonna say, well, I was like, oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's fast. I mean, most people like would like to go through the amateurs and stuff, take a
Yeah,
year, 2 years, and then but you just jump right into it. So
yeah.
respect for that. Now, can you describe? So you're in the UFC. Can you describe what it was like for your fight that you had in the finale? Like, what's the process like? Take us through the life of like a UFC fighter there, like the week of the event.
The week of the event,
Yeah.
most of the time I am just focusing on my weight cut the whole week of the fight. Like I I get really nervous before fights, so I try not to even like think about the fight until after the weight is made. So like that was used to be my biggest battle, was making weight. So
Okay.
my whole week leading up to it, I would be in the training room just practicing things that we would go over for the fight, and like getting a good sweat in, and then focusing on my diet mostly, and getting the weight down. And then once I make weight, I'm really happy. So I'm like eating and drinking, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good, I'm good. And then when I wake up on fight day, like I am extremely nervous. I'm like a nervous wreck the whole day. Like I I have to calm myself down, and like I like pace the hotel room. I have to have my coaches usually like talk me up and be like, "You're ready for this. You're good. You're good." And I
Yeah.
constantly need that reassurance, and like I have to give myself that reassurance. And then I have like a little pocket Bible that I like to read, a
Yeah.
couple verses that I have highlighted in there. And yeah, then I'm just like a nervous wreck until we start warming up. And then when we are warming up, I'm starting to feel good. And then walking out to the cage, I'm just like praying the whole time. I'm just like I am praying in my head the whole time until um they say, "Fight, are you ready? Fight, are you ready?" And then fight, and then I'm like, "Okay, we're doing this." And then once I get hit for the first time, then all of the nerves go away, and then I'm like, good, I'm good to go. It sounds weird, but like
Yeah.
once I get that first hit, I'm like, okay, I know what it feels like now. I can take that, and then
Okay. And just move
and then
forward.
I'm yeah, I'm good.
So, did you ever watch any UFC though? So you didn't watch any UFC before you started fighting?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
So you
No.
didn't. Okay, so then you obviously you didn't have like a favorite fighter or anything like that through that journey for you. So that was interesting. Now, question: your last fight was in 2018, November 30th, correct? That was in the
Yep,
finale.
that is correct. Yep.
Awesome. So you haven't fought in what, almost, it's as if it's over 2 years, not quite three
Yeah.
years yet. So it's
Yeah.
been a minute. Fair to say?
Yeah, it's been about little over 2
Yeah,
years.
a little over 2 years. Now, is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I've been suffering some major health issues. So, um, I was overtraining significantly and under eating for a very long time, like years. And
Okay.
I had a lot of rough weight cuts, and each weight cut got a little bit harder and a little bit harder until after that last fight that I had, my body just shut down, and I knew something was wrong because I like couldn't even get through a day without having to take a nap. Like I was tired all the time. I felt horrible. I felt sick
Okay.
all the time, and I felt super weak no matter how much I worked out and stuff. And then I went to the doctor and they found out that my thyroid stopped functioning.
Okay.
So I was on regular like thyroid medication. I was hoping that that would work. Nothing ever changed. So, and I still felt like crap. So then I found he's a functional medicine doctor who specializes in thyroid disorders. He's based out of Pennsylvania, and so we do like video chat appointments, and he has my lab work sent to like local labs, and then he gets the results, and he found out there was a whole slew of problems with me. So my like gut biome was messed up, my thyroid was messed up, my hormones were all messed up, and then
Okay.
my mitochondria, which is down to like the cellular level, those were all messed up too. So um according to some of my lab results, like if I would have continued to train and fight the way I was, I would have done permanent damage to my body and potentially ended up in the hospital with organ failure. Like I was pretty close to doing some major damage to myself. So I had to like take a huge step back
Okay.
from training and focus on my health. And so that's kind of what I've been doing for the past like year and a half. Once I figured out what was wrong with me, I had to focus on a lot on like recovery and eating more, eating a lot more than I was. I was eating like 600 to 800 calories a day, and I was training like 6 to 8 times a day, like
Okay.
6 days a week. So for any fighter that's listening, don't do that. Don't overtrain. It's not a joke. Like you're gonna do damage to your body and you're going to potentially take years off your fight career. So I had to learn the hard way. Um, and I'm really glad that right now, like I've finally hit a good point with my health and I'm starting to work my way back into training again.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
That man, that sounds like it's very nerve wracking. I'm sorry that
Yeah.
I'm sorry that that happened.
Yeah. It's okay. So, I mean, I was the only female fighter at my gym for a while, and so I was kind of like the guinea pig, right? And women can't cut weight the same way men do. So
Okay.
both myself and my coaches kind of learned the hard way that doing some of the methods that we are doing to cut weight and to have me train so hard all the time was not good for my body.
Yeah. Now, is there any advice you'd give to any female fighter, female athlete that's in the same line of business as you're doing, Leo?
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a day for training is all that you need to do. Don't do more than that and listen to your body. Like you can tell when your body's starting to shut down and when you need to eat more food or when you need to rest and recover and relax. Make sure that recovery is a huge part of your training regimen, not just training hard all the time, but making sure that you're recovering, taking those Epsom salt baths, find time to relax, make sure that you're eating enough calories because if you don't, your body's going to shut down.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you're feeling a lot better. So you're getting back into the rhythm now. You're back to training, correct?
Yep, I'm back to training. I still can't go 100% for very long, so I'm doing like a couple times a day. I'm doing like moderate intensity stuff. I'm not doing anything super intense yet, but I'll do like once or twice a day of like moderate intensity workouts.
Now, so now when you're saying that now, like, is there a plan? So are you like in your head is like fighting even like a thought in your head, or you're just trying to just get yourself in to the point where you're physically 100% comfortable? Like, is that something you'd want to do one day down the line?
Um, so fighting is still a thought.
Okay.
Finally, again, it's a thought. Like for
Yeah,
a
of
while,
course.
it wasn't even in my thoughts because it was like so far away. Now it's finally like becoming like, okay, my body is healed enough. I can picture myself fighting again. I didn't do permanent damage according to my lab, so I'm really thankful for that. Um, I'm hoping that by the end of this year, I will get one fight in. I'm not gonna push myself too
Yeah,
hard. And if my body can't handle adding more training in, I'm not gonna like try to push it and rush getting back into the ring because I'll just end up hurting myself again. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm hopeful that I'll be good by the end of this year, and things are looking good, especially with how training's been going lately. Um, I'm hoping that ideally I'd like for fall time frame.
Okay. Now, well, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, when you're going through that, and it's rough, I can only imagine. You know, it's something rough, and other people, do go through it as well. Is there what kept you? I guess is it fair for me to ask, like, what kept you sane throughout the entire process? Because you do have to have like a level of positivity, correct?
Yeah. Well, I won't lie. I struggled with depression really, really bad for a very, very long time, up
Mm-hmm.
until about 2 months ago, to be honest with you. Um, I have two different therapists that I work with. I work with one that's at the VA,
Okay.
that just talks about general life stuff, and then I have a sports psychologist, and he's the one who's really, really helped me. There's a sports psychologist at the UFC Performance Institute, and he's truly, truly amazing. I've worked with him, but since I'm not in Vegas, I can't really see him that often, except for when I fly out there. So on a regular basis, I do video chat appointments with my sports psychologist, who's actually based in Canada. It's called Mindlock. He's got his own company. He has helped me with like different ways of coping, basically trying to focus on what I can control instead of what I can't. So
Okay.
I can't control that I can't train super hard right now, but I can control how much I'm focusing on my recovery and proper nutrition. And um, at first, I had to start with just working out 20 minutes a day and then slowly increase the minutes each week. And at first, I was just like, well, what's the point? I can only do 20 minutes a day. This is ridiculous. And he was like, well, let's add like a 5 minute warm up in there. And then we'll do like 15 minutes of stretching. And then we'll do 20 minutes of actual workout. And then we'll do a 10-minute cool down. And then 10 more minutes of stretching again, and then add some journaling at the end. And like then you stretch it out to almost like basically an hour.
Okay.
So he's helped me like kind of reframe the way I think about things. And I'm really thankful for that because, and I'm thankful for my boyfriend. And I have a lot of really good friends around me that are a good support system because it's been a really big struggle mentally for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now, were you still having to do your military responsibilities and stuff while you're going through that stuff?
Yeah, yep. I still had to come to drill weekends every weekend, and then over the summer and into the fall, I was doing the COVID-19 response for the National Guard. So I was working in at the Capitol of Wisconsin. So we were doing like all of the logistics behind the COVID-19 testing throughout the state, and so basically I was in charge of keeping track of all the data of like how many tests we were running and where all the troops and all that stuff was. So I was working at like the headquarters for all that.
So you definitely kept busy throughout this entire time. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So, man, that's insane right there. So as we're shifting to the end, Leah, is there something any advice, because it is Women's History Month? Is there any advice that you'd give to maybe a young aspiring female athlete, or somebody that's aspiring? Because I actually, believe it or not, I know a few females that are like trying to just get do the proper things to get into the military. Is there any advice you'd give to any of them?
Um, Coming from someone who's been in male-dominated careers in every aspect of her life, don't get discouraged and don't let. Um, I mean, I had to deal with so many dirty looks and like kind of like bad attitudes going into the MMA gym at first. Like they were like, "What is she doing here? Why? Who does she think she is?" And then I had to
Really?
work like 5 times as hard as everyone else to try to prove myself. And eventually, they took me seriously, and I earned that respect. But um, my advice is to never give up and don't get discouraged. Stand up for yourself. You belong wherever you decide to take your life. So if you want to be in the military, you want to be in MMA, anything male dominated, you belong there too. So don't let anyone tell you any different.
Well, thank you, Leah. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign out?
Um, I just want to shout out to my coaches. Daniel Wanderley, Joe Nichols, Ben Tomes. They're awesome. I just started training with Wanderlei Jiu-Jitsu. I just switched training camps, and they've been absolutely amazing and very understanding with my health issues and working with me. So I just want to thank them very much.
Awesome. Well, that was Leah Letson. Thank you so much, Leah, for coming on to the show. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And to everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. Be safe this weekend. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.